Yes, if you think of anything, will do.
There you go.
Could be worse, it could be baby shark. Want a pencil to draw a line?
Oh, no.
Everyone? Hello. Hi. Our next speaker tonight is Nasir, talking about his show Off the Rack.
Thank you all. I was very impressed. Rachel didn't have a piece of paper. I have a piece of paper. My piece of paper first says to say thank you to Trish and Ken for all the work you do here at the gallery. It's just, and my surprise guest. Rachel, who made this so interesting and so much fun. I so appreciate that I was able to sort of. Rachel spent the last like 6 or 8 weeks just every time I texted her or called her, she was painting. You know, she was, I'm painting. And that was great. I'm sorry that the person who helped me hang isn't here, Diana, and we spent 2 days together this week, just coming here and putting things up and getting everything out of my house, and it was a really sweet and lovely experience for me. This is new for me. This is like really new, and yeah. And I always have to thank my friend Brian, who endlessly has to see photograph after photograph after photograph after photograph, and he sees them mostly now. He moved up to upstate New York, so he mostly sees them out of the phone. There's a way that I also want to thank my kids. If you look around, none of them are here. I want to thank them for not showing me. If you ever meet any of them, tell them they were thanked. So last week, actually it was this week, it was Sunday, Jim and Eli, I don't know if Eli has any work up. This is Jim's piece, this Big Shark, and they both had pieces up for the last show. And when I heard them speak the other night, afternoon, I really got in touch with how deep this work is, and I guess there's a way that I knew that, but this has been so healing. And I don't want to cry here or get into a whole psychological thing, but this has been so healing for me in so many different ways. And the other person who I'm supposed to be thanking is my mother. And I don't even know how to thank her at this point. But I have a bag there. It's my bag of tricks. I'm going to take one thing out and tell you, my mother never, I don't know what my mother knew or didn't know about me as a kid. This was actually, as a kid, this was white. We didn't have black pillowcases. We didn't have black pillowcases. We had white pillowcases. This was my first costume. A pillowcase. Pillowcase where I would, okay, so how much do you need to know about me? I have no clue, but you'll know more than you want to know. And I think it explains where I'm at. When I was like in first grade, second grade, third grade, I got sent to my first shrink because I was effeminate and maybe liked wearing my mother's clothes. The psychiatrist said to my mother, if you don't want him wearing your clothes, take them out of his closet. She kept her clothes in my closet on a different floor than her bedroom was at. So at some point she took away her clothing from my closet, put it down in the basement in a beautiful walk-in closet, and I was then left to my own devices of having to wear pillowcases oh my God, that dress looks bad. That dress is like fabulous.
Not yet.
Right? So I started, and again, I don't know what my mother didn't, but I started ripping up, pillowcases, and they became skirts, and they became dresses, and in my room they became, I guess, silhouettes on the wall, and I would take a pillowcase or a T-shirt and I put it over my head, and then I would take this ends and I'd flip it up, and I'd see the silhouette of this bouffant. It was 1957. There were bouffants. My mother was afraid her bouffant wouldn't last, so she had a wig and a matching bouffant at all times. I now have 25 wigs. I'm the proud owner of 25 wigs. So I went to pillowcases, and it wasn't until I got older that I was really able to maybe experiment a little bit. But it's really been I have to say that it's been the last 2 or 3 years, and especially, I don't know why, but I bought a studio about 1.5 years ago for many reasons, and the studio offered me a closet that is now just, in today's day and age, I don't know what to say. I would say retro women's clothes, but why? I mean, what makes a cloth? What makes a clothes women's? But clothes that I would have identified as. So now in my life, I get to play, and I get to, I guess, create these scenes that I created as a child in fantasy, and I get to set them up and take photos of them and just allow myself to heal and be. I could say a little bit about some of them. Like, there are some parts of it that move from photo to photo, like this bag is in this photo, and it's also down here in this beach photo, things move around, and it's just been an exciting process and an extremely hard process. Taking classes and then moving into, this was like growing. This top one, it's Mabel Thorpe, was growing in my bedroom. It's like I had a wall, and then I got the mannequin, and then I put the mannequin in a leather jacket, and then I took out some bottles, and it's like, and that's a Toyota hubcap, and which here is some sort of like ancient sort of mythic thing, right? And sometimes I have it with candles in it, and it becomes a candelabra, and it's different qualities. And this one is it's also in a box, but this was after the riots last year when kids got. Maybe not just kids got shot when they were going over 676. My daughter got very involved, and so there's a sign in there giving out goggles, so this became an incorporation of that part of my life. And it's interesting, I look at this, and this corner and this corner are the same exact corner in the studio. So I've been playing. One night, as I was getting into bed, I had a real, I don't know what happened, but I was about to burst into tears. And I said, stop, set up the camera. And I went, really? Yes, put on some clothes, set up the camera. And I got like 5 shots that I have of the beginning of the cry, the middle, the end of the cry. And it's just amazing to me where I guess the 7th place I said to thank is PPAC, Philadelphia Photo Art Center. What that center has allowed me to explore and do in many different ways. Before the pandemic, it was the first place that I felt comfortable starting to dress, like walking there dressed in heels and a dress, and then once we hit the pandemic, I backed off of that. But they have a lecture every Thursday night that I mostly go to. I think I go about 99% of the time, where I dress up for that lecture. Different wig, different dress. I usually go shopping that day, pick something up for it. This week I got into bed and I said, no, I can't do that. I did off the rack because as people were looking at this earlier, I love that sound. I just love that sound. And the last thing I want to say is this photo. Wow, this photo, which I have marked $25. I was giving away free. I did it on the last show. Sorry you missed that. But I think this is where I'm headed. And this is a photograph of, it's hard to say exact, it's not, so I guess a number of months ago now, maybe this is summer, maybe back in the winter sometime, trans woman was killed. And at this intersection of, I think, 41st, and I don't remember the name of the street, but it may be written here, that car was pulled over by the police. And the police told the driver, who was the person who actually was the murderer, told the driver to continue on to the hospital. Didn't say we're going to get backup or anything. Allowed that person to take Mia Green to the hospital. And I think this is where a piece of my work is going next, to try to, in my head, help the trans community. I don't know who I would have been if I would be born today. I know, I wasn't born today, and being gay was a struggle. Maybe at moments it's still a struggle. And there are times, I'm going to end with this, there are times I like now I'll walk into my house and I'll look in the mirror to take out my contacts, and I'll go, ooh, you were just walking around with all that makeup on. Like I forget. Like it's not like I just forget. This is how I'm presenting myself and showing myself. I guess the good news is I haven't been beat up, which means things have changed. And I want to. This is really feeling really strong for me. I want to continue this this in some way. I haven't met yet, but a woman who's also involved with the Philadelphia Photo Arts Center, Be Proud, has also been taking photos, and I've been in contact with them and trying to figure out what I want to do next. You know, and this feels like this has gotten me here, and yeah. I will questions, thoughts, comments.
I can say something. I've always felt as an artist that what an artist does is to fantasize. And you put yourself, you sort of take yourself out of where you are and you dream up this whole world that you're going to paint, photograph, or whatever. And so Eli did that, certainly Jim does with what you were showing last month for sure. And you've done that, and I think for your next step, you're putting yourself in that position where that photograph was taken. And I think that's what a good artist does. I think that you sort of, I always feel like I'm stepping out of myself. I start working, and I'm not in the room I'm in anymore. I'm in the room of this piece. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. And I think that's good mental health, too. and makes for better art. It's not just cookie cutter. It's not fill in the blanks. It's not paint by numbers. So.
Yeah, just playing with props. It's like, when you have props laying around, it's like a little dangerous, and it's sort of like what Connie just said, the fantasy, and that might have started, or probably started with the ironing board up, and maybe there was an iron, and maybe I was straightening the hair, right? Remember straightening the hair on the ironing board? Yeah, and then it just, it is interesting. Well, not always, but sometimes like that could have been like the last photo. Like I was exhausted. Like like it's 3 or 4 hours, of getting dressed and working and setting it up, and so it could be like 3 or 4 hours, and I'm tired. I'm always amazed.
I was going to ask if there are any wigs or looks that you find yourself drawing back to, like time and again, or?
It's funny, I don't think it's here. I don't even know if it's in here. Wow, it's funny, I don't think it's even in here. Yes, it is. It's my favorite wig. It's my favorite wig.
Wow.
Yeah, it's my favorite one. It's funny, it's not up here anywhere.
Can we see? It's a good shot.
Red one.
Yeah, the red.
I knew it was going to be red. You showed up in a red one.
That might have been for your birthday.
Yeah,
That's the wig
yeah,
I wore to your birthday party.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my favorite wig.
That's
The portrait, some portrait above on that one, there's an expression of contentment that I see in that. Like I'm finally feeling like I know who I am, feeling comfortable with myself. I don't know if you feel that way, but I feel that from looking at it.
Yeah, I think there are moments I feel that way. I mean, not always, but I think there are
It's
moments.
a very beautiful feeling.
Yeah, more so than ever before. But yeah, And yeah. You know, and the top one, the top one, Decay, that was like really in the height of the pandemic. You know, that was in the height of the pandemic, and my daughter moved in upstairs to the studio, and
Which one are you talking about?
one up in the middle.
Oh,
And my daughter moved in, and I started growing that in the kitchen, like right near the stove. And she had a little kitchen upstairs, but she couldn't really cook there. And she's a Slav. And one day she came down, like pretty much towards this place, and she said, "Daddy, the kitchen's a mess." And I went, "No, Mosey. This is art. Your kitchen is a mess." And it's interesting on this one too. I went one step too far. There's one photograph after this that I went too far, and I broke the glass. I thought having the broken glass would be really sweet, and it didn't work. And I was thrilled when it didn't work.
Because you were done.
Well, I was done, and I could see that, oh, some things don't work, right? Some things don't work, you know. So that was interesting, yeah.
In many of yours, you're facing directly the audience and you're participating. So I wondered how you are seeing yourself interacting with the person who's not there. And just to contrast that with Jim's approach, how expressive what your statement is by the direct contact versus, you know, for instance, do you ever have ones where you feel that you're communicating just as well by showing the back of your head, not the front, not the expression, the ambiguity? Is there any?
Yeah, the only one I mean, this one down here a little bit, but no, I think for me, it's interesting because it is definitely working my face, and how I it's definitely very me focused. Yeah, I'm pretty much a narcissist and self-centered, which leaves, you know, I have a lot of friends, but doesn't leave a lot of room for them. But they still hang out with me.
But it's a powerful communication nonetheless. That
Yeah, no,
there's
definitely.
on the other end who isn't there, but is there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm very present in the way Connie sort of just spoke, in a very out of it, not out of it, but in a very meditative or quiet place that I'm directing from an interesting place. Yeah, and it is directing. It's interesting to me that all of a sudden I'm like telling myself, because I'll go look at the camera again, or I'll take them out. I'll take out the SD card and put it in the computer so I can see it big, see if I'm getting it. Yeah, I go back and forth. Yeah.
So you're not working with a monitor while you're actually taking it? So
I'm not. Some of us in class have just started working with tethering, and I haven't gotten there yet. My camera has an LED screen that swivels, so I get to see if I'm in the frame, but I haven't gone to that, to the other one. And the newer cameras don't have the LED screens that swivel, so I might have to. I love the LED screen that swivels. It's still a pandemic, so we're not serving cocktails.
Sadly.
But they are across the street.
And I want to thank you, all of you, and Rachel, and my mother, for her, whatever. Thank you all so much.